St. Lawrence International School, Social Studies Grade 4. Hello, my dear students, and a very good morning to you all. Children, I hope you are fine at your home and you're enjoying, you're liking the videos, and also you're understanding the videos, you're understanding the concept which is being taught in the video. Children, yesterday in this lesson number 12, our history, we had learned how the Indo-Aryans migrated to India and how the four Vedas were being formed, why that particular period, why the Indo-Aryans period is called as the Vedic age. We had learned about the Upanishads. Okay, there was one question from one of the student. I don't remember the name now, but the question was, what is the meaning of Upanishad? So before moving ahead, children, let me clear the doubt. Upanishads are nothing but the literature. These are the prominent literature which were being written during the Vedic age. There are 108 Upanishads, and even at present, even in the modern age, the people are referring to the Upanishads. People are learning those Upanishads, and they are using it in their day-to-day life. Okay, we had also seen, children, the how the smaller kingdoms, which were called as Janapadas, how it was conquered, how it was captured by the rulers of Magadha. And due to this, children, Magadha became the most powerful kingdom in North India. I had also shown you the map of that. See, this is the map, and it shows in this map you can see how Magadha became the most prominent, most powerful kingdom during the ancient period. Okay, they captured, they defeated the small kingdoms, the Janpadas, and they formed their own rule. Now, after the Magadhas, children, after the this one, there was an attack by a very great, you can say, or very strong man who tried to rule over the world, all over the world, and the name was nothing but Alexander. So, children, today we are going to learn about Alexander the Great. Okay, in today's lecture we will see how he came to India and what happened during the fight. All this we are going to learn today. So let's start with this paragraph. First I will read the paragraph and then I will explain you. In 326 BCE, Alexander, the ruler of Macedonia in Greece, attacked India. He defeated King Porus of Punjab but was very impressed with Porus's bravery. Alexander had to go back as the soldiers were very tired of fighting. He died on his way home in 323 BCE. Children, even though we have a very short paragraph in our lesson about this incident, but actually there is a long story, you can say, behind this. Alexander was a very strong man, very strong ruler from Greece. Okay, and he had planned to capture, he had planned to rule over India. With this intention, initially he crossed the river Indus. We have seen river Indus during our first lecture. After crossing the river Indus, he attacked Taxil, one of the name of the region near that river. He attacked Taxil, but the king of that region, his name was Ambi. Okay, his name was Ambi. He just gave up. He had heard a lot about Alexander's bravery and his strength, his power and all. So this king, Ambi, he was, you can say, scared, and because of that fear, he just gave up the fight and surrendered himself. So without fighting the war, he just surrendered his region. Now, after getting or after achieving this war, after winning this one, without fighting, in fact, Alexander moved ahead. And then he attacked Jhelum. Okay, he attacked Jhelum, and that is why it is called as the Battle of Jhelum. In, I think, in your other classes, okay, in future you will be knowing about the Battle of Jhelum and all in detail. At present we will not go much in detail, but in short I will be telling you that incident. Okay, so when Alexander attacked Jhelum, when that battle was there, he thought that even this king also will do the same thing which the king Ambi did. But King Porus did not give up. He was very strong. He was very strong. It is being said that if you see his, even the physical image, or his the build one, his build, if you talk about, he was 7 feet tall, even more than that. He was 7 feet tall, and he had a very strong build. One of the most powerful king in India. And children, you might be thinking that even though he was the king of Punjab, why his name was Porus? So children, let me tell you that actually his name was not Porus, his name was Purushottam. His name was Purushottam, who belonged to Kuru dynasty, and he was the son of Yayati, who is being mentioned in Mahabharata. Okay, some of you might have heard about the name Yayati. Okay, some of you might have heard about this. So he belonged to that dynasty, and he was very much powerful. He gave a fight, he was ready for that fight, and there was a war between these two. It is being said, children, that when there was the war between Alexander the Great and King Porus. See, I have the images of this, children. This is the image of that war, of that battle. One more I can show you, children. See this one. The one who is riding on the horse is the Alexander, and one who is there on the elephant is the King Porus. In fact, Purushottam. Okay, Purushottam. Now you must be thinking that if his name was Purushottam, why is he being mentioned as Porus? So let me tell you, children, when this incident was illustrated, it was illustrated by a Greek historian. And in Greek language, in Greek, that name Porus was given. Instead of Purushottam, that name, he was named as Porus. Understood, children? What was his actual name and why he was being mentioned as Porus? So it is in Greek. Understood? Porus is a Greek word. So it is being said that King Porus was defeated in that fight, and later on, when it was asked, when Alexander asked the King Porus that how would you like me to treat you? How would you like me to treat you? King Porus very politely he replied, the way one king should treat the another king. Okay? So when he heard this reply, he was very much impressed, and also the kind of fight which he gave, the power which he had, the strength which the King Porus had, Alexander was very much impressed with this, and due to this, Alexander got ready to give the kingdom back to the King Porus. In spite of winning, he gave the kingdom back. And then, since his soldiers were tired a lot, so they decided to move back to his own hometown, that is Greece. So when they started their move towards their home, on his way, Alexander died. Now, the reason of his death is not yet clear, children. Okay, but it is being said that while leaving this world, he gave one important message to the whole world, and that message I have narrated it in a story form in and the title of that story was Khali Hath. Okay, wonderful story about Sikandar. Okay, now you all must be amazed that what is the relation between Alexander and Sikandar. That also I will be telling you, children. But along with this video, I will be sharing one more link about that story which you will be watching. Okay, so don't forget to watch the story as well. That story will tell you about the important message which the Alexander the Great gave to this whole world. Okay, so children, it is being said in one of the theories. Okay, when I was just going through this study, in one of the theories, it was mentioned that the actual winner was not the Alexander, it was the King Porus. Okay, it was the King Porus who won that battle, and due to that, Alexander moved. But to make him the great, one of the Greek historian, while mentioning it in the history, to make Alexander the Great more stronger or a great in the world, he mentioned that Alexander won the battle. Okay, but we will not get into this controversy, children. Just for your idea, I have mentioned this in the video, because you might go on searching about Alexander and Porus and all, so you might come across such things. Okay, you might come across certain facts, but we are not sure about the reality. Okay, so we will not get into the controversy. Okay, now moving ahead, children, there was the incident, okay, which I told you, when King Porus was defeated by the great Alexander, which you will also be reading in the textbook. It is mentioned in the textbook. Okay, that when King Porus was defeated, he was asked, just now as I said, that when he was defeated, Alexander asked him that how would you like me to treat you, and he politely replied, as the one king treats the other king. See, here is the image. Here is the image of these two when they both are meeting. They are meeting face to face. You can see this 7 feet tall, okay, the King Porus on my left hand side, and on the other side we have the Alexander the Great. Okay, so children, this was all about Alexander and the King Porus. So after this, one information I would like to share with you all about Sikandar and Alexander. Just now I said that you would be thinking what is the relation between Sikandar and Alexander, because in some of the blogs or videos he is named as Sikandar. So children, actually Sikandar is like an alternative word for Alexander. It is in Persian language. Sikandar is in Persian language, and it describes a powerful king or a conqueror. So this is all about that, children. There is you need not to think that both are totally different. Okay, both are totally different. Sikandar is an alternative word for the King Alexander. Okay, children, I hope you are clear with Alexander and his bravery, the battle between Alexander and Porus, what happened in the battle. I hope you have understood. Okay, now moving ahead, children, in 321 BCE, the Maurya's empire began. Now we will be reading this paragraph, and then I will explaining you the concept. I will be explaining you the details about Maurya empire. So let's read this first. In 321 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya became the ruler of Magadha. He founded a new empire, the Mauryan Empire, with the help of his advisor Kautilya. Later, his grandson Ashoka became the emperor. Ashoka was a brave ruler. He fought a war against a kingdom called Kalinga. However, he became so upset by the bloodshed and loss of life that he did not fight any wars after that. He embraced Buddhism and helped spread it in India and other Asian countries. Ashoka got many rock and pillar inscriptions written and put up in different parts of his empire so that people could read his messages on them. Okay, so children, Chandragupta Maurya, he became the ruler of Magadha, and from that time a new empire was built that was named as Mauryan Empire. You might have heard about this name, Kautilya. Kautilya was the advisor of Chandragupta Maurya, and with the help of him they founded the new empire. Then children, you also might have heard about the king Ashoka. Ashoka the Great. Okay, Ashoka the Great. Ashoka was the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. He was also a very brave ruler who captured many areas, many kingdoms. But once there was one incident. When there was a fight against a kingdom called Kalinga, he became very upset, even though he won that battle. But when he saw the bloodshed, when he saw the loss of life, he became very upset and he decided not to fight any wars after that. There was a question by one of the students, what is the meaning of bloodshed? So children, bloodshed is nothing but when thousands of people are killed at one time. Okay, when many peoples are killed on a large scale at one time, at that time the blood, okay, during the wars and all, especially, okay, many people are killed at one time. So at that time, everywhere the blood and blood is there. So the shedding of blood due to killing of these soldiers, due to killing of these people, that is called as bloodshed. So when King Ashoka saw this, he became very upset, and it was like a turning point in his life. It was like a turning point in his life that after that war, he did not fight any of the war. He embraced Buddhism. That means he followed Buddhism. Buddhism is one of the religion. Okay, and he started following that. He embraced it, and he also helped spreading it in India and other Asian countries. Children, now also you can see many rocks and pillars on which certain writings are there. These are done at this stage. Okay, on Ashoka. Ashoka was one of the king who got many rocks and pillars inscripted. Okay, and these were put up in different parts in all over India, even outside also you will observe it. In Orissa, in even Maharashtra also you can see in many of the regions. And the certain messages are written on these rocks and pillars. Messages about Buddhism, messages about Dharma, messages about how to live the life peacefully, importance of peace, and all such important things for human being, which is talking about humanity. This is the image of Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, Chandragupta Maurya, who ruled Magadha, who became the ruler of Magadha. And children, this is the great Ashoka, who was the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. Children, here I would like to show you the image of the Ashokan pillar. Okay, the Ashokan pillar, and this one which is there at Delhi. Now children, there is some information about this pillar also. It is called as the iron pillar. So here is the information about this, children. The iron pillar of Delhi, which is called as the Ashokan pillar, it is 7.2 meters high with 16 inches of diameter. We can see how huge it is there. Okay, it is standing in that Qutub complex in Delhi, and the speciality about this pillar is it is rust resistant. That means the metals which are combined together to form this pillar are such that you even in spite of after so many years, you will not find any rust on the surface of this pillar. So this is its speciality, and its weight 3000 kg. Okay, over the pillar weighs over 3000 kg. And one more fact about this which is being said, children, that it was not basically was present in Delhi. It is being said that it has been erected elsewhere. Erected means nikalna. Okay, like when we are taking it out. Okay, it was taken from Udaygiri caves, which is there in Orissa. Those who belong to Orissa, you might have heard, or those who have been to Orissa, you might have seen the Udaygiri and Kandagiri caves. There are a lot of information about Buddhism, about King Ashoka is there. Okay, so it is being said that this pillar was located in the Udaygiri caves, and then from there it was brought up to this present location, that is Delhi, by the Mughal emperors. Okay, so this was some information about the Ashokan pillar. You can also find these stupas which tells about Buddhism, and it was also developed by the King Ashoka. All over India we find you can see these stupas at various places. Okay, children, after the Mauryas, there was the entry of the Guptas. There was the rule of Gupta. Okay, Gupta's rule was there in India, and that time is called as the golden age of ancient India. Now there is a reason behind this. Okay, there is a reason behind this why why it is called as the golden age. See this image, the golden age of India, Gupta Empire. The reason behind this is, during this period, the development in art and culture was there. Okay, not only money wise, children, not only the riches wise. Okay, not only the monetary richness, there was also the development of art and culture, then development in science, mathematics, astronomy and grammar, and India became a rich country, not only money wise but in various aspects. And due to this reason, it is being called as the golden age of ancient India. Understood, children? So with this, we will wind up for today's lecture. I hope you all understood. You can also try to gather more information about the King Ashoka, then the Alexander, then the King Porus. Try to get some more information about this. And now we will stop up to here. Tomorrow we will be starting with a second stage of history of India. Okay, so till that, take a very good care of yourself. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you, and bye bye everyone.